Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Strength Agenda Radio. I am one half of your co-host, Tom Soroka, and the very well groomed, love those glasses, hate the hat gentleman next to me is John Ziegler. John, good morning, my man.
Good morning. Of course you ate the hat, but that's okay, man.
It's all
Uh,
right.
however,
Before
all right, yeah, go, go.
did you see the baseball realignment thing?
I did. I
What are
saw
your
it.
thoughts? What are your thoughts on it?
So as a Red Sox fan, right? Like
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like as my main team being a
Your
Red,
team is the Red Sox, yeah.
right? As a Red Sox fan, I looked at that and thought this is the hardest division in all of baseball.
Yeah, for those who don't know, there's talk during one of the games on like ESPN or something like that. The I don't know, he's not the owner, the guy in charge of Manfred, in charge of Major League Baseball.
Hmm.
They're kind of talking about like what's the long-term plan and stuff like that. And they were talking about how they're going to be adding two teams in the next like 5 years or something like that, which okay. Because from all intents and purposes, like I'm pretty sure Major League Baseball is the worst performing sport right now, ratings among the big five.
Yep.
So like how that warrants adding more teams is going to solve that problem. I have no idea, but whatever. And then they talked about how they're going to realign with the two new teams added. And essentially what they're going to do is well, the original discussion he said was no NL or AL. They were just going to do essentially East and West, and
Hmm.
then they're going to do four team divisions based on geography. So
Yep.
for those of you who are Chicago folk and stuff like that, I think the Chicago division, or it's like the North Central division or
Yeah,
whatever it was
something like
called,
that.
is the would be the Cubs, the Sox, the Twins, and the Brewers,
Yeah.
which like Huh. I don't like originally I was very like screw this, that's a stupid idea, but somebody brought it up because I was worried about the Cubs Sox rivalry because that's like a huge thing. It's a
Uh,
lot of fun. I got relatives on the other side of it, like my cousin and her husband. I constantly will just talk smack to them during and vice versa, and I worried about it like watering down the rivalry. But one of my friends is a Red Sox. Another one of my buddies is at Lifetime is a Red Sox fan, and he said he's like, well, he's like it hasn't done anything. Like he goes, the Yankees and the Red Sox are still like even though they play more games than like those rivalry weeks that Major League Baseball does right now. He goes, it's still an intense rivalry. He goes, so I
oh
don't
yeah.
think it'll be a thing. So yeah, but I was just curious. So what I like, your statement about the hardest division, like those kinds of statements always intrigue me. So what would be the Red Sox division?
So the Red Sox division, because there are four teams,
Yeah.
it would be the Yankees, the Sox, the Phillies, and then who else
The
would I want to
Mets.
say maybe
It has to
oh
be
the
the Mets,
Mets.
right?
Yeah, the Mets.
Yeah, that is okay. That is a tough division. Yeah.
Like
Just
that division right there is just not only is it a tough division, but when you look at like fan wise, the biggest assholes on the planet,
yes.
that's all four teams.
Yeah, 100%. Like
Like they talk more shit.
the
They're
worst fan bases. Yeah. Yeah. Like no.
as a Red Sox fan, like
Yeah.
like I will 100% own the fact that like if we're sitting in a room and it's you, me, like you got a Sox hat on, I'm wearing a Red Sox hat, and I'm not today, but and then there's somebody in there with like a Yankees hat on, I'm immediately gonna chirp at that
Yeah.
person.
I mean, and Phillies fans are just brutal, period.
Oh God, they're fucking rough.
I went to a concert like a year or two ago at the Link, and like it was a concert, and they're like baseball fans and football fans. It's like fucking chirping at people, and I'm like, we're not even in season. Like, calm down.
Dude, that's just Philadelphia though. Like I
No.
so when we went out to what was the meet in Philly that we all went to?
Oh, the Howard Cohen last year,
Yeah, the Howard Cohen last year. So when we went there,
something Valley.
I had my A's hat on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and after the last day, Allison, Rachel, and I decided to go see like the Christmas Village thing that
Oh
they
yeah,
had
yeah,
set up.
yeah, yeah. I remember you telling me about this.
And like I'm walking into like one of the little areas, and this girl just looks at me, looks at my hand, and goes, "Pff, "What the fuck?" And I
Yeah.
was like, I'm like, "Whoa!"
Yes, yes.
Like, part of me
Yeah.
gets it because as a Sox fan, you'd be like, "What the fuck you doing wearing a fucking Yankees hat in here, asshole?"
There are a few cities I avoid sports alliances. and Philadelphia is one of those
Yeah.
cities.
Yeah.
This is
They're
killing
just,
me. This I want to say Happy Valley, but that's not it.
no, I think you're
It's
right. I thought it was happy.
no Happy Valley is what the Penn State's stadium.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
It's
Yeah, I can't
some like
remember it now.
it's some like Revolutionary War Valley Forge.
Valley
There it
Forge.
is.
Yeah.
I was like, it was killing me. I was like, how do I not? We've gone there like 4 times. How do I not know the name of this damn city? Anyways, all right, what was
All
your
right.
thing? You pointed.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like we went to see the Savannah Bananas. Speaking of
Yes.
baseball, in the White Sox stadium, and I will have to admit, like that's a really nice stadium.
Oh, Comiskey's a great stadium, and the fact that they keep complaining that it's old and want to build a new one, I'm like,
They built
have you
that,
been to
didn't
Wrigley?
I? I've never
Like,
been.
I'm kind of intrigued. That I was kind of surprised Wrigley is hosting the All-Star game not next year, 2 years.
I think it's just the historical aspect of it being Wrigley.
It's just a pain in the butt to navigate on game
Yeah.
day. It's a pain in the butt. Like there's no parking anywhere. There's just all those bars. I can't stand Wrigleyville personally. Like it's not my cup of tea, but like I know the ballpark's got history and all that nonsense or whatever, and you just got to wear a hard hat in certain sections so the concrete doesn't hit you in the head and all that. Anyways, so yeah, but Savannah Bananas, I'm a huge fan of them.
They're
Been
great.
watching a lot of the stuff that Jesse's been posting, the guy who owns it and stuff like that. His intrigue or his interest in showmanship and how he goes about the league and stuff like that. I like a lot. I like I've been very intrigued. I'm on the wait list for Denver
Are you?
for next year.
Yeah.
Uh because they're expanding and they're doing a whole championship thing and whatever. They're adding 2 more teams and stuff. Like it's yeah, I feel like um yeah, I feel like that's gonna put like if I was talking to one of my friends about it, and if baseball doesn't get their arbitration settled next year and ends up going on a strike, I feel like like if that happens, like the Savannah Bananas thing is about to explode.
I
Like
mean,
major,
they're already selling out stadiums.
I know, but Major League Baseball better not hope that there is a the work stoppage
Yeah.
because if there's a work stoppage and they're able to fill that gap, like there might be no coming back
Yeah.
for Major
Like
League Baseball.
seriously. And they're super entertaining and they're fan first. Like Jesse, the owner, when he
Yeah,
talks about their mission being fan first,
yeah.
that's legit. Like he stays outside the stadium until everybody's gone, signing autographs and talking to
Oh
fans.
yeah,
Like that's not lip service.
oh
That's
yeah.
what they when it started to rain and pour down on everybody, he got on the mic and he goes, "Hey, just so everybody knows, we are playing baseball tonight." He goes, "This game is going to happen."
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, "We just have a cell moving in right now, so we have to ask everybody to move under cover." He goes, "But as soon as that cell passes, we're convincing, like we're gonna
Hang
go."
on. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And true to his word, like, and they did everything they could. They put the players inside the covered areas.
That's what my other friend said. She said
Yeah,
that
so
she
people
said
could meet them and get stuff
yeah.
signed. And
And then she
then
said the cheerleader, the male cheerleaders or whatever, were like they were doing like slip and slides
dude,
on
they
the
were so good. They were so
yeah,
good. I told Rachel, I'm like, I'm gonna put on 70 pounds to
yeah.
become a Savannah Banana like cheerleader.
Yeah.
Like,
If you were listening and you were looking for a good time, it doesn't matter if you like baseball or not. Pretty much is what I've been told. Tickets are affordable. Just getting your hands on tickets is the
yeah,
problem. But like check out the Savannah Bananas. Like I said, the way they do tickets, I like too. It's kind of a lottery system. So people just can't buy a bunch of like there's obviously a lot of like third party, peak groups and stuff like that,
yep.
but it's just from a like you and I've talked about this stuff. Like I always look at things from a business perspective. And so when I started hearing about them and then I started watching, videos and like little clips here and there,
Hmm.
I started getting intrigued from the business side of things. And
Yeah.
like the more I learn about Jesse and how he operates and what his influences are and stuff like that, I'm like, all right, like this is pretty cool. Not only from like a pure entertainment perspective, but like a lot of business owners, especially in today's current, mold of things, like y'all can learn a lot from him. Like, the thing
Yes.
about them eating the taxes and whatever, it's just one of those situations like It reminds me of the honestly, it's a weird comparison, but it reminds me of the Arizona tea thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like the CEO was on during, I think it was during COVID or whatever. They're asking him how come that even with COVID and all that, he didn't like raise the prices. And he's like, we own the machines, we own the recipes, we own all of this, and blah 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 blah. He goes, we have zero reason.
Yeah.
He goes, everybody's getting paid. Like we're not losing money, like we're making money. There's no reason for me to raise the rate or raise the price of the cans or the tea or whatever. And I appreciate people who can kind of take a step back
Yeah.
and not just kind of be a little extra greedy just because they can be.
Yeah. And I think it's a good time for us to announce our rate increase. I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
Jesus Christ, no. Such a dork. Anyways, all right. So we promised folks we were going to talk questions.
Yeah.
We've been getting a couple of good ones from like you do a lot of in-person coaching. I do in-person coaching, the remote, my check-ins, all the different stuff, social media, questions that we get all the time. So we kind of narrowed it down. We got one, two, three, four, five questions. And it's one of those situations where they're not really in particular order here. So I'm gonna let you, we'll kind of try to knock out as many of these as we can. I'm gonna just pick a number, John, one through five.
Let's just start at the top. Let's go with the number one.
Well, because another one. Okay. All right. So the first one I got was just, so everybody knows I do Grid League. And I got asked, so this weekend is championship
Yep.
weekend. People were just pretty much just asking like finals predictions and stuff. So I don't know how much of the that you've been paying attention to. For those who don't know, with the four teams in the finals I always get the division. I think the divisions is dumb. I'm gonna be 100% honest because all the teams except for like two are in Florida.
Right. Yep.
Um, but there's the Eastern and the Western. The Western Division, I believe, is the Southwest Florida Sharks and the Tampa Bay Brigade. Um, the Sharks are the team for people who like I always like list off players.
Yeah.
That's Kelsey Field.
Yeah.
She's on the Sharks and stuff like that. They pretty much are the most loaded team. They've got multiple league MVPs, players of the year, things along those lines. They've absolutely like I think we played them the first match, they absolutely destroyed us.
Yeah.
But I think they're the first team in league history to go back to back undefeated in the regular season, and they're the first team in league history to go the first two matches without dropping a race. Which is pretty impressive given to it that there's 8 races a match plus ringer points. It's absolutely insane what they did this season. They're playing the Tampa Bay Brigade, who kind of feel like they're always in the playoffs, but they're often like just overlooked because they're kind of just there. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like an NFL team to compare them to that's just like always in the playoffs, but just doesn't go.
Steelers.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, like they're a perennial
They're like
playoff.
10-7 every
Yep,
year. They
yep,
get to the
yep.
playoffs. They get bounced in like the first round.
Yeah, I will say this, so like they played, and it was weird. It's kind of weird because we're getting rematches of the last match of the regular season for both sides. And so Tampa played the Sharks, and they came really close to beating them. They
Mm.
pretty much came the closest anybody has all year. And a lot of people for a minute there thought they were going to beat them. So we got them playing. My prediction, I don't think. I think I think the match format from the last weekend it was a double header, so I think that played a lot into it. I think the Sharks are going to win. I don't think it's even going to be close.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And it sucks because I like Chris Coffey, who's like bodyweight ninja. If you ever see this guy, he's got a phenomenal mustache, and can pretty much do anything gymnastics wise.
Yeah.
Like he's this little like meatball of a human being. Like they got those on their team, but I just don't think they have enough depth to go against the Sharks. I think they're going to win, and then on the other side in the Eastern Conference, I guess it is, you have the Palm Beach Breakers, which they're like kind of like the Cinderella story. Like they
Yeah.
didn't win a match last year. They revamped their roster and they just pretty much just ran through everybody, but they ended up losing to the Lions, who is, for all lack of a better term, is a super team.
Gotcha.
The Aces and the Lions combined. Aces have won one championship. The Lions have won three, I believe. So they have like the most championships in their, pedigree and stuff like that. I'll just be 100% honest. And I hate saying it because I like a lot of people on the Lions. There's just one person in particular, Taylor Sturgis, because I don't care about saying his name, that I would love to see lose.
Yeah.
He is like everything you don't like, and he does it on purpose.
Yeah.
He likes to run his mouth and stuff like that. and he thrives on it, and he's a good athlete. Like I'm not going to sit here and say he's not. I was annoyed because I wasn't at the match. We played them, and from talking to everybody on our team, he was running his mouth quite a bit during the match, and you know how much I love that stuff, and I love to get involved in it. So I would have loved to have chirped back at him and gotten in his face a little bit as well, but it is what it is. But they ended up beating the Breakers, but I don't think it's going to happen. The match format, I think, really favors the Breakers over that. So I
Yep.
think the championship's going to be the Breakers and the Sharks. And I'll be 100% honest, I have a hard time picking. I have who I want to win,
Yeah.
but then I feel bad picking. It's a coin flip. Like I really would want the Breakers to win just because they are the feel good story. They're a fun team to watch. They're like a team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it just it's cool to watch their chemistry. It's cool to watch their vibe. But like it is just hard to like in order to beat the Sharks, they are going to need a perfect
Right.
match in the championship. And the Sharks, even with a perfect match, they're going to need the Sharks to make a couple of mistakes. And I just don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, I
Um,
can't imagine that happening. And like I think this is the like most I've ever kind of paid attention to it,
yeah,
you know, and I think it's grown a little bit, which is nice. But the Sharks just seem to be, to your point, I think they're gonna have to make some mistakes for anybody to like take them down.
I
And
think
when you've
well,
got an
yep,
entire season behind you of not making mistakes,
yeah.
relying on that, it's like, hoping that Tom Brady has a shitty game in the Super Bowl for the first time ever.
They're they're a juggernaut and they're hard to beat. And like I don't like the other thing I feel bad. Like I said, I feel bad for because I got a lot of friends on that team too, people that I like and stuff. I believe somebody told me about this earlier in the season. They have made it to the championship like 3 or 4 times and lost. So
Okay.
like there are players on there that are just like over losing in the championship. Like last year, they lost to us
Right.
and they went undefeated, ran through everybody. And then they just like I honestly don't know really what happened. Like they hit a brick wall and I think we gave it like we beat them like the first 6 matches. Like it was
So that's
not
it's like so they're the grid league version of the Minnesota Vikings or the Buffalo Bills.
yeah, like
Like both
yeah,
of those teams
still
made it 4 years to the Super Bowl and
yeah.
every time
They
like
just
came in
and
hot
so
as shit. And
it's just like for those folks, I want them to win because
yeah,
it's been like I feel bad that they have been bridesmaids so many times. But like I said, I would love to see the like I don't think I don't think I'd be upset with either team winning. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? Like they're
yeah,
both
it'd be
really
cool.
cool. So yeah, that's that. That's this weekend down in Kissimmee. Good luck to everybody competing. I don't know if this will be out by that time. Probably not. But that's okay. But that was my first question. All right. Um, Next question that we had was something you and I were talking about before we started recording and stuff like that. I've gotten questions about this because I teach USAW coaching courses, both the level one and the level two. This is part of the level one curriculum, but I'm always asked about it, on the side and during the level two as well. And we're talking about scaling
Hmm.
versus RX when strength work either is emphasized, increased, etc., and stuff like that. And so kind of wanted you to take away in terms of like how do you navigate that with folks in terms of and then we can throw that two-parter in that we threw down there after that. But like we'll talk about just that first when we're just talking about
Yeah.
strength in terms of how to navigate scaling versus RX stuff.
Yeah, and so we were talking about this, and like you said, both of us coach in person, so we get the opportunity to kind of to deal with this on a pretty regular basis. And a recent example of that is I have one of the athletes that I'm coaching is having knee issues, right? But
Yeah.
she wants to continue to do things. So when you have somebody that's got a knee issue, a shoulder issue, something like that, my approach to that is like we were talking about earlier, is like, okay, well, let's do what you can, right? Do what you can without experiencing that pain and that discomfort. And I think it's important to understand the difference when we talk about discomfort between discomfort genuinely in a lift and I'm feeling uncomfortable because it's fucking heavy. right? There's a big difference there. And so when I'm scaling somebody in strength work, or even like myself for that matter, right? If my lower back's hurting, it's like, okay, the day says I need to do 4 sets of 7 at, 82.5% on back squats, but my lower back's killing me.
Yeah.
All right, what are my options?
Yeah.
Right? What's the most important thing to do? Well, the most important thing to do is to try and figure out how to squat to depth
Yes.
without aggravating my
Mhm.
back. So sometimes, right, what I did with the person in my class who's having a knee issue, it's like, hey, why don't we start light
Mhm.
and across these 4 sets, let's build a little. And if you feel that twinge in your knee, like let's back it down. I
Yeah.
don't I don't want you to keep doing reps and feeling that twinge in your knee.
No,
I
no.
want us to build to where we're like, hey, I'm okay and I'm squatting to depth and I'm moving through the entire range of motion and I'm good.
Yeah.
Great. Because if you lose a little bit of strength during the time that we're doing that, it'll come back. But if
Mhm.
you try to push it too hard and hurt yourself further, taking yourself out of training for an extended period of time because you're like, well, my shoulder hurts, but I'm still going to try and jerk 90%
Right.
when 70% during my warm up hurt really bad.
Yeah.
Well, don't do that,
Yeah.
right? Like be
And I
smart.
think, and I think that was, I know you and I've talked about it a lot, and those who've been on my team, my lifting team, I talked about this ad nauseum. But I think that's where little things like the 80-90 chart come into play. You
Mm,
know, giving
yeah, that's
people
great.
tools to scale. A while back, one of my coaches at the gym, way back in the days, and when they gave me this, I stopped using, I stopped using, just straight up like hard percentages, like
Mm,
75%. What I started doing was giving people a range. We were talking about that too before we
yep.
started recording about how like our master's prep, if it's not one of the mapped out heavy days as part of their training, I have them doing range between 75 and 85%. I've had a couple athletes ask, like, what does that mean? It means you do like they're like, do I do two here, and like one there? It's like, no, you do 5 singles and listen to your body. You know,
Yeah.
if you hit that first 75% that felt absolutely rough, you're like, all right, we're gonna stay at 75% for 5 singles. Like, is it a little bit below that 80% threshold? Sure. But like to your detriment, like if we have heavier days planned later in the week and we don't want we want those days to go as well as they can, we're not going to sit here and do a bunch of stuff
Yeah.
leading up to it that's going to cause that to go away. So yeah, in terms of that, now when we're talking about like adding metcons in and stuff like that, like with like focusing on strength work and stuff, you probably deal with this more than I do because in my realm of experience, like, working, a lifetime doing like alpha strength classes and stuff like that, it's kind of a blend, a nice, easy blend. So we're not really going so like full on heavy. Everything's got its time and its place and stuff like that. So it's about 20 minutes of strength work, 20 minutes of conditioning work. And I just try to make sure it stays balanced. If they give us like whatever the stimulus requirement or the goal is for like the card, like for instance, like if the Metcon is like zone 2 cardio, but they have us doing intervals, I'm like, that makes absolutely no sense. So I will like break it down to more of like a AMRAP chipper style, like slow pace, like, hey, I need this performed at a conversational pace. Like now necessarily like resting, but like we're just kind of moving from movement to movement for the entirety of the time to stay in that heart rate zone and all that stuff. But how do you, because I feel like with CrossFit, that whole constantly varied comes into play a lot more. Like how are we
Sure.
focusing on, or what would your recommendations be for focusing on the strength? If the strength is the high key emphasis, but we're still getting metcons in and stuff like that, making sure we're scaling accordingly, in that regards, like like, talking about
Yeah.
that percentage kind of a deal.
So, when I program for affiliates, right? And we're gonna roll out like our affiliate programming in a couple months,
Yeah.
uh, once we get it put into the system. But when I program, for CrossFit, there is the idea of pushing your strength
Mhm.
during the strength and accessory portion,
Yeah.
right? Because this is where you get stronger. You
Yeah.
don't, you're not going to I think the biggest mistake that I see in Metcons is this ideology that RX matters the most,
Yeah.
right? And so people that, let's say it's a 21:15:9 of 200. That's not even realistic. It's not even going to be realistic, but we're going to do it anyway. 21:59 of like two and a quarter power cleans and rowing, right?
Yeah.
Something that you're like, there's a handful of people at an RX level or an elite level that can do that, right? And they're going to be able to do it and they're going to do it smooth.
Mhm.
But if that's not your jam, like if 225 is your close to your top end power clean,
Mhm.
why would you try that in a Metcon where the goal is to finish that workout within a certain time domain?
Especially if you're already depleted from whatever the strength
Correct.
portion for
And
that.
that's kind of, for me and when I'm programming, the idea is, okay, well, let's push heavy and let's push skill, right? To almost the point of like I'm fatiguing.
Mhm.
Um, and then when we get to the Metcon, let's have a real honest conversation with ourselves of based on how I'm feeling after pushing in this portion, what am I going to do during the Metcon to meet the goal of the Metcon? And that's
Yeah.
the thing. I was just having this conversation with somebody at the gym. They were talking about, man, I have a tough time with like chest to bar pull-ups and I know I can do this, but this makes it harder. And, I really just kind of had to like gut it through. But I wanted to make sure I got it done RX. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
Why? When the goal is to maybe get 6 rounds of a workout or to finish something in 6 minutes, but you have so if I write a program and it's, hey, this Metcon is meant to take you 6 minutes, you have an 8 minute time cap on it.
Yeah.
That 8 minute time cap isn't there for you to try and go outside of kind of your skill set and your strength level within the Metcon to try and, get close to RX. That's there so that even if you scale to what you think is appropriate to be able to get to the 6 minutes, and for some reason your body's not responding right, you're extra fatigued, something happens, and
Right.
your conditioning isn't cooperating, what have you, that's your stopping point. But we should be scaling to meet the time domain and the goal because that's the point. The point is, I'm working on my VO2 max, I'm working on my conditioning, I'm working on the virtuosity of my movement. I'm
Right.
right. So that's the point of that Metcon, where we get strong enough to be able to get to RX in the high gymnastic skills, in the Olympic lifts, or, just power output in general. That's outside of the Metcon.
Yeah.
That's why we've got the strength training. That's why we've got the skill work in terms of like, hey, let's spend 5 minutes working on accumulating 30 chest to bar pull-ups, whether that's banded or what have you. Like, let's do that. And they're usually strict, right? So scaling in a Metcon is really more about meeting the goal and trying to remove that ego and saying, hey, like, I'm not there yet. I can't do this,
Right.
you know, RX yet,
Yeah.
but I can scale to the point where I still get the same stimulus as if I was RX capable to do it in 6 minutes.
Agreed. Agreed.
So,
And so it's one of the things that we talk about too, like in the USAW courses, because we get asked all the time. And it's just one of those situations where like I personally don't necessarily like how USAW approaches the situation.
mm,
Because I don't want to say it's antiquated because I don't really know if it is because it has its purpose, but
sure.
they essentially just talk about, like separating cardio from or cardiovascular fitness from like strength. And like to an extent I agree, but like it's just not the world we live in anymore. And if there's one thing CrossFit has proven time and time again, they might not have the like scientific data to always back it up, but they have proved it time and time again since the early 2000s that you can combine all these different aspects of fitness in one workout and still get one hell of a workout. So one of the things that I like to lead people to is essentially like a modified rep max calculator. And like using things like RPE
Yeah.
and Philippians chart and stuff like that when like scaling Metcon. So like to use your example, let's just take Isabel for instance.
Mhm.
Isabel 30 snatches for time at 135 pounds. Now, if your max snatch is, let's just say it's 165, right? And Isabel has done it is 30 reps at 135. I'm just rough math here. I don't even know fully, but like you're pushing that 80 to 85% threshold for 30 reps, and you're supposed and like I think usually like a general time cap for something like Isabel is like 5 minutes or so,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so it's just one of those situations where if you just don't have the capacity at that RX weight, like I always tell people, like, and this is a qualm I do have with CrossFit in terms of their level one course, because they don't equip coaches with this information unless the coaches seek it out. And it's like teaching them what is the stimulus of that workout. The stimulus of that workout is not to do 30 snatches at 80%. Or 85% or 90% for some folks, or hell, even
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Like that's not the stimulus of the workout. The stimulus is, and what I always tell people is, I'm like, you need to be able to string together 5 to 10 reps. You know, if you at the bare minimum, you need to be able to string them together like 5 reps at like the absolute bare minimum. You need to be able to do triples. And they need to be quick triples. Like you do a triple, give yourself a 10-second count off, back on the bar, triple, and so on and so forth till you complete. So, like when it comes to like the range percentage wise, I always tell people for those high rep, like I go back to basically like the strength model where you have your percentage range for, power, for strength, for hypertrophy, for
Yep.
muscular endurance. I use like for something like that, I use the muscular endurance range of like 50 to 60%. So,
100%. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
to scale like a workout like Isabel down, like if the RX weight is over like is anywhere over that like 60%, you need to bring it down to
Yeah.
whatever like the 50 to 60% is, or just finding a weight. And it could be different, especially if you haven't tested in a while, but it's like I said, give them the lift ranges or the rep ranges. Like you need to be able to do sets of fives or sets of threes, and whatever's going to allow you to do those quick sets of fives and threes to get it, excuse me, done under that time cap.
Yeah. A good example of this last night, I did one of the Metcons in class
Yeah.
that I wrote, and people were starting to load up, and it was 21:59. It was a games workout. It was 21:59 calories on the bike and power snatches, right? And I had like I had made the decision earlier, 75 pounds. The RX weight's 105, right?
Mhm.
But I'm like, I'm gonna do 75 pounds. And then as I'm sitting there and I'm watching people load up, and it's always funny to me, right? If you look around the class in a class like that, it's
Mhm.
always the guys that are overloading the bar. Women are underloading a lot of the time because you have to kind of push them a little bit to go heavier.
Yeah.
But they're closer to where they should be on the bar than the men are. And so I was watching a couple guys like load up the bar, and I was like, "Hey, what's what's your goal here? Like, what do you want to finish this workout in? Because you should finish sub 6, right? The idea, like, finish sub 6 minutes, give yourself a little bit of rest time before the next workout." And I said, here's a good question to ask yourself. Can you move that barbell weight that you have on there 30 times easily, unbroken if you had to when you're fresh? And they were like,
Yeah.
well, probably not. I'm like, okay, so you're going to do 21:15.9 with it though. So you're going to add in a level of fatigue,
Yeah.
right? And then you're going to expect to be able to move that bar. I said, you're going to reduce yourself to like quick singles. And that's not the point. And so a couple of them had made the adjustment on the weight, right? And
Mhm.
it makes a big difference. Telling people exactly like you said, like, hey, this should be 50 to 60% of your one
Yeah.
rep max. If you're outside that 50 to 60% range, if you're minus, you probably need to add more weight. If you're plus, drop it down. I've seen guys who step in and again, it's predominantly men, and they'll step up and you're like, "Hey, have you ever done like dumbbell snatches with
Yeah.
70s before?" And like,
Mhm.
"Nope." What makes you think if you've
Oh,
never done it before, this is the time?
Oh, you're way nicer than I am. Like I'll just be like, let me see you do one real quick.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't even have the conversation. Like when I was coaching at the CrossFit, I used to drive them nuts because they'd be like, oh, this is pretty heavy. I personally think the worst thing that has ever happened to CrossFit is the addition of RX Plus.
Yeah. I think
I
that
I hate
yeah,
RX
I don't
Plus.
know why that is. Because originally, so one of the most impactful things that I heard in CrossFit was in my first time I took my L2, and there was a big section on programming. And
Yeah,
that there was that statement of you program for the best and you scale for the rest.
right.
So when I program a Mechon, I program for somebody who's gonna end up in the top, let's say 500 in the open,
Yeah,
right? That group of people can do this workout, RX, and if they're moving right, they're going to be able to do it in this time range,
right.
right? They're going to get this many rounds. And
Yeah.
so when I coach that program or when I put it into programming notes for coaches, it's like,
Mhm.
here's your goal. This is what they should be aiming for. If
Mhm.
they're outside of this, then they've overdone it,
Yeah.
right? And
No,
have that conversation. This is the point of the workout.
yeah.
Doing it RX is the goal eventually, but doing it RX in 12 minutes,
Yes.
if it's got if that's the goal, not doing it RX in 22 minutes
Mhm.
because your brain said, I've got to do it RX.
Right. Well, and I think that's the thing too, like to add a caveat onto that. And then like because you're talking about like how long it takes and like how wrecked you're going to be. Like, are you going to be able to come back the next day and do something else?
Correct. Yeah.
Like that's the thing I think more so than not needs to be taken into consideration. And that's the job of the coach because you get somebody who's brand new to fitness, has never really done anything committed like this before. They're
No.
not going to know how their body responds to this stuff or how it's going to feel. And you can literally just that. And that's like, like I said, CrossFit has definitely hit home runs in a lot of places. And I'm
Okay.
using CrossFit because like for those who don't like CrossFit, or like, this is a weightlifting podcast. Why are you talking about CrossFit? CrossFit is the reason John and I are able to do this stuff. So if
Yeah.
you don't like it, tough. Sorry. CrossFit has put more barbells in the hands of anybody than the next five fitness trends combined. It's also made it really cool for people to do snatches and clean and jerks. Okay. Because when I first got into weightlifting and I was competing and all that stuff, I tell people I was a weightlifter and I always got to ask what my damn bench was. Then like around
Which comes, bro.
2013, 2014, I tell people I was a weightlifter and I'm like, oh man, like what do you snatch? And I tell them, they're like, holy shit, I squat that. Like it's just like CrossFit has done a lot.
Yeah.
But they've definitely missed on a few things. And coaching education is one of the things that I feel like they've never quite hit the mark on. Like I
Yeah.
understand their model. It's very libertarian, like, the best of the best will survive and thrive, and they've got to figure out how to separate themselves, and you can open up right next door and all that stuff and cut throat. I get it. But taking a weekend cert does not qualify you to be a coach. Like
Yeah.
very without some skin in the game. And that's where like when anybody that is looking to get into any of these group fitness things and stuff, yeah, I feel like it is okay to ask the coach, what is your experience? How long have you been doing this in particular? I personally love those questions because I love being able to go through the different things that I do, the different things that I bring
Yeah.
to the table. Like, because you could have somebody, and I'm just using this as an example, but for all intents and purposes, like you look at John and I, you're going to ask John for CrossFit advice. You ain't asking me for CrossFit advice. But experience wise, we've got about the same amount of knowledge and we agree on a lot of things and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But it's because
Absolutely.
of experience that we have that we're able to give those same answers and come to those same conclusions or similar conclusions and stuff. But like we're still learning from each other because we took different approaches. But like a lot of people simply go off the eye test, and that's just not necessarily always the case. But like I feel like it's okay to question your coaches and stuff. We kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but so at the end of the day, folks, um, if you're prioritizing your strength, scale things down accordingly just based on feel. Make sure your coach and you have a plan in place in case, like John will say, he's got an athlete with a knee issue. Squatting might not be a thing, but they can do box squats, they can do sled drags, they can do all sorts of other stuff to kind of supplement their leg
Yeah.
work or their leg strength work while still getting a stimulus in. And then when it comes to metcons and things like that, adjust accordingly based on where you currently are, not what you want. Like it's kind of like you're running the squat program right now, right? My favorite is when people will text me about like week 4 or 5, be like, I'm missing lifts. I'm like, how the hell? That's why the program got changed, was because originally it would just be the 6 weeks of the percentage work with no pretest.
Oh, wow.
And people started doing, they would base their math
Off the
off what
lifetime
they,
that they haven't touched in a decade.
no, 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 even worse, what they wanted.
Oh God.
Yeah, they would base their percentages off of what they wanted to hit. And then like week 4 or 5, they'd start missing lifts. And I'm like, well, yeah, no shit. So that's why like I think we're on version like 3.0 or something
Yeah,
like,
it's a
where
great
like
program.
I had to put a pre-test in because I just couldn't trust people anymore to be truthful about their math. Because I wrote out because the original ebook, the very first one, has this whole page about how to determine your max. And I go into like circa maxes, working maxes, how to establish it if you haven't done one, like what a working max is, like
Yeah.
what in terms of like a stale max, like, oh, I went through all of this stuff, and people just blow right by it and went into
Right.
their,
They're still like, man,
yeah,
I want to squat 500 pounds.
yeah, 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 and they'll
My
base
max
all
right
the
now is 275, but I want to squat
exactly,
500. And then all of a
exactly,
sudden it's like,
exactly.
I've never squatted that before. All right.
Yeah, so they're doing like the triples, like based off their 100% currently. And I'm like, yeah, that's gonna suck. All right. So scale accordingly, folks. And that's how we would suggest doing some of those things. Next random question. I wish we had Jess on for this one because I'm curious, I'd be curious with her professional opinion.
We should get
Uh,
Jess on here sometime.
we absolutely should. Intra workout carbs versus not. What is your preference? I get asked this at least once a week, and it's not usually from my weightlifters. It's mostly from like most of these kinds of conversations come from like, and for me, it's interesting because I just never thought they cared. My Highland Games guys,
Hmm.
my my strongman competitors,
Okay.
even like my Alpha Fit people that I that I deal with and stuff
Yeah.
like that. That'll be like, what are your thoughts on intra workout carbs? So I'm curious from your perspective because I have my take. I just don't think it's a very traditional take on it. So I'm curious, like, what is your thoughts on intra workout carbs versus not, or like, what do you do
Yeah.
during a workout to keep yourself fueled and whatnot?
All right. So I think it's you got to separate it out a little bit. So if I'm at a competition,
Yes.
right, I am going to in between workouts,
Is that a
right?
sneeze or a cough?
There's a cough.
Okay. It sounded like it could have been a tweener. I was about to bless you, but like I didn't want to if it was a cough. I had to ask. All
Okay.
right. And
So if I'm at a competition and I'm talking about like a CrossFit competition,
yeah.
right? So if I'm at a CrossFit competition, then I'm gonna have in between workouts, I'm gonna refuel
Yeah.
because there's it's high intensity, like you're giving it your all, like you're really pushing hard. And so and let's say you've got an hour or more before your next
Yeah. Yeah.
fucking Mekon. Well, in between that time frame, I probably need to replenish a little bit. So I'm going to replenish a little bit. I'm going to have some carbs
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
that time. If I'm at the gym and I'm
Yeah.
training, no. So
Yeah.
my belief is, and this is, and I've learned this. So everything that I have, I really liked what you were saying about like coach education stuff.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that plays into both you and I, like doing this and continuing to do it well, is that we both are curious
Yes.
and we're both humble enough to say, I didn't know that, and I've learned it from
Yeah.
somebody who knew it. And I'm like, great. So what I'm going to talk about now is like something I learned from somebody else
Mhm.
that has a lot of knowledge, and that's targeted nutrient timing throughout the day, right? How to eat to
I think that's
fuel your
real quick, just plugging for Jess.
yeah,
That is, I think, the reason we brought her on and and she took over
yes,
the
the
nutrition
nutrition
side
program. Yeah.
because that was something you and I were keen on, but like we're not we're not qualified to be, doing like I've taken the precision nutrition level 1
Right.
and stuff like
I've
that.
done
But it's just
nutrition
like
coaching
it's not
course.
our forte, it's not our strength. We wanted somebody who aligned with that. So
Yeah.
if you haven't had a chance to check out Jess or talk to her or anything like that, she does our strength agenda nutrition for the site. Like she is huge on a lot of the same things John and I are probably about to talk about,
Yeah.
but she's the professional. Like that is what she does. She's worked with a bunch of our athletes and stuff and helped them with their cuts. But
Army
yeah,
fitness team athletes, like
yeah, and I
she's
think
legit.
and I think the nutrient timing thing is something that had to explain to people. Like I had put that post out a while back, and it's just one of those situations where I kind of get blown away at how little people take that into consideration. But
Yes.
carry on. Sorry.
No, and it's okay. And it's, me too. Like it's one of those things, and understanding how to eat based on when you're training in the day. So I'll use myself as an example. I usually train around 5 o'clock, right?
Mhm.
Give or take
Okay.
a little bit, depending on like how the day has gone based on work. So that means, my meals are planned out to support
Yep.
optimizing my
Yep.
training and optimizing my recovery afterwards. So that means when I'm actually training, I don't have intra workout carbs. I
Yes.
have water. Um, I might have some element in there.
I was just gonna say, like, I'll like
If it's super hot and I'm sweating
depending
a
on the time
ton,
of year, I'll have like yeah, some electrolytes, something like that in there. Yeah.
for sure. But there's no food or carb intake during my workout. And for the understanding that I have, right? And this is just the understanding I have, is that you don't need it. So you
Mhm.
fuel the right way through the day, you eat the appropriate amount of macros and calories through, for me, like breakfast, then I have a protein shake around 10:30, then I
Or-
eat lunch around 1:30, and it's primarily like lean meat, bell peppers and rice. And I know, but I can't.
Nerd.
I'm not gonna make steak in the middle of the day. I'd love to though.
Steak with like Jesus, have some sausage or some lunch meat. God damn.
Oh man, I
Oh,
just
bell
good. I like it.
peppers. It's all
Yeah,
fancy with color.
yeah. I gotta add some color. And then an
I
hour
have
before,
I have seen you eat. I just laugh because
I know.
it's literally like a toddler and their parent eating. When
Yes.
like that, there was the one day we had lunch together, and it was like your portion size was like this, and mine was like
Yeah.
this. Like we ate the same thing. Like, we went
Right.
to
We ate
Chipotle.
it. It wasn't anything different
It
about
was
what we ate. It was,
it was during the course when we went to
yep.
Chipotle. Like,
Yep.
I had like double rice, I had
Yep.
double meat, I had all the like we had the same things, but it was like I literally had like 2 to 3 times the volume of
Yep.
food. And people are just like sitting there staring at us at this Chipotle eating, and we're just like, yeah, this is
Yeah,
just
it's okay. It's fine. So, and then the one thing I will say that I added in, so I don't take pre-workout anymore. Like I
oh,
found that
you live
taking,
dangerously.
dude, I know. You know what my pre-workout is? And everybody laughs at me and they think I'm crazy, but it's the best pre-workout. And I got this from somebody else, by the way, who has a shit ton more experience than me. I ate a Rice Krispie treat.
Yeah.
An hour before I go and work out, I eat a Rice Krispie treat because of the glycogen boost,
Mhm.
right? And the simple carbs of the
Yeah.
Rice Krispies. And throughout my workout, I am good. Like
Yeah.
I'm strong. I don't feel, drained during my workout. I can push, whether it's strength training or whether it's a Metcon, it doesn't really matter. It's the same. I feel good. And then afterwards, right? I eat like a little something to just put a little bit back in my body, and then, I eat dinner, and then an evening snack, because everybody that's like, "Oh, I've got my drink for while I'm working out." Well, by the time it digests
Yeah.
and gets into your system to the
Yep.
point of being useful, you're probably done.
Yeah.
Like
No,
let's just be real honest.
yeah, well, and that was my thing too, and because I know people are, I guarantee people are gonna like start, typing shit out as soon as I say this. But if you are working out so long that you need to eat while working out, you're working out too long and you're spending way too much flipping time between sets.
On
Now,
Instagram.
that too. But like now I will say caveat with this. I understand, I know the RP guys. I'm friends with like Derek Wilcox, and I've talked to Nick Shaw about this stuff, and I understand their standpoint from a bodybuilding perspective.
Yes.
But I'm not talking about those more
Right.
high-end athletes. I am talking about the power lifters that are working out at your Globo gym that do one back squat, sit for 7.5 minutes, scrolling their phone, checking their video that they just recorded, doing whatever other grab ass stuff that they've done, and then come back and do another lift where they like have literally completed maybe 10 lifts in an hour.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. And then your accessory work, you do a set of, 15 reps. and you're talking for 5 minutes and stuff. Like, yeah, you're gonna get hungry. Like, if it's gonna take you 3 hours to get through that. But like your average workout should take somewhere in between like the 60 to 90 minute range, not including your warm up and your cool down and things along those lines. And yeah, like that most during workouts, I will do something like, Gatorade or something like quick carbs and then like in my drink, like something along those lines. Usually it's just like as you said, some electrolytes just
Yeah.
to kind of make sure I'm replenishing stuff and things like that. And then it's funny you mentioned the whole like because I got my thing from CrossFitters essentially in terms of like Highland Games. So like Highland Games is an all-day event. It's 9 throwing events. You start usually somewhere around like 9 o'clock and somewhere around like 4 or 5 o'clock. And so what I tell my athletes and what I would do is I would just go and I'd buy a box of those applesauce packets.
Yep.
And then especially during the summer, because you're outside, there's no shade, it's whatever. My go-to was applesauce packets and either peanut butter M&Ms if it wasn't
Mm.
too hot outside, or Sour Patch Kids. And I
Sour Patch
literally would
Kids.
just through like after I would finish it, and then I would go and get those Pedialyte Plus electrolyte balance wise. Like now, like LMNT is a good one. There's a bunch of really good brands out there now, but this was like back in like
Yeah. Yep.
before COVID, like LMNT really wasn't a thing yet. And so Pedialyte Plus was the best electrolyte balance that you had out there. And you can only get them in the sticks. And you had to go to the baby section and get them and stuff like that. And I would get a box of those. And so what I would do is like, a box has like six of them. And so what I would do at the Highland Games is essentially like I'd throw two events. But in between the two events, like I would have, I take like an applesauce pack or two and like a handful of my candy, go throw my event, come back. After the second one, I would take a regular water bottle, put a whole stick in there, drink that, then have that's kind of how I would fuel
Yeah.
myself throughout the day. But I got that from a CrossFitter. It was actually the first time I heard it was watching one of the CrossFit documentaries on the games, and Matt Frazier talking about what he would eat in between events. And then I started talking to some of my nutrition friends that I knew worked with like other games athletes and stuff like that. And that was what they suggested. I was like, awesome, cool. So I appreciate that we said that. But yeah, like when it comes to intra workout carbs during a workout, if you have time to eat, like you're not working out hard enough. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. You're you're
Sincerely.
you're, you're not optimizing your time. Like you should not be sitting there eating during your workout. Stop talking, put your damn phone down, get your sets done. But I do agree with you. The pre-workout thing is interesting to me. Have you tried any like non-stim pre-workouts?
I have, you know what?
Okay.
And one of the reasons that I stopped was because I'm super caffeine sensitive. So like
Yeah,
I
you
love my
talked about
coffee in
that.
the morning, but
Yeah,
after noon, right, things get a little dicey.
that's fair.
And so if I have an energy drink or if I have like a stim pre-workout, that's
Yeah.
usually an indicator that I've got a migraine for the day and I'm trying to get
Oh,
some
that's fair.
extra caffeine to help that like go away. But otherwise, what I found was it's easier for me to control my breathing
Yeah,
and to keep my heart rate down and to stay a little bit more regulated during my workouts. And my
yeah.
focus is better without that boost, right? Without
Interesting.
that bump.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, like I stopped taking pre-workouts. Like I'm similar. Like I usually work out around 4 or 5 o'clock. Stop taking regular pre-workout because even with like usually going to bed later, like sometimes
Yeah.
10, 11 o'clock, sometimes midnight,
Still
depending
laying
on
in
what
bed
I'm
late.
doing, I still would have a hell of a time falling
Yeah.
asleep.
Same.
And so I started doing the pre-stim or the non-stim
Nonsense.
pre-workouts, and that's helped me like fall asleep and stuff like that. Another thing that for me is eating, too late in the day. Like last night, like I didn't get home till almost 9 o'clock. So like by the
Yeah.
time I like sat down and ate my dinner is 9:30. And I'm like, I ain't going to bed for a minute because this is just sitting like a brick in my stomach. And if I try to go to sleep, like I am not going to be comfortable or whatever. So I had to like stay up a little bit later than normal,
Yeah.
whatnot. But I appreciate that we're on the same page there. I mean, even if we weren't, it's fine. But it's just
Right.
again, it's just one of those situations where people keep like I said, I get asked about once a week because I'll get like a new Highland Games person, or I'll get a new person that's just like hasn't really dabbled in the fitness space, and they'll see people doing things in the gym and they'll ask, and like I try not to poo-poo on people and say like I'm like, hey, whatever they're
Yeah.
doing probably works for them, but this is what the research dictates, sort of a deal. So, all right, last question we have here.
Great.
Um, Navigating competition calendars. This question came up in particular because of masters weightlifting. You and
Yep.
I have talked about this ad nauseum. So we have, for those who are unaware, in masters weightlifting right now, we have two organizations with, I actually counted it out with 11 meets on the books
Just
in a calendar year between the two organizations.
right.
Now, people aren't doing all 11 meets, but like our athletes in particular, we've got athletes on our masters team that are doing anywhere from, 3 to 5 events a year. We have a lot of our athletes that you've been putting in the newsletter, like getting ready for the first Masters Worlds. There's two worlds again now,
Yeah.
and both are in the US this year. So we had, the Masters Nationals in Boise at the beginning of the year, which I told half of our team you're not doing, because just the way the calendar worked out. I pretty much made them pick between the two nationals. The first one was in March in Boise. The second one was in Atlanta. Most of our team opted to do the Atlanta one because they already had their qualifications for the other worlds and such. Then so those were the first two meets. Some of our athletes did Pan Ams, which I went down for and I helped out at and coached them there. So that was, the third meet because we had athletes that did both nationals and then the Pan Ams. Then we have the Worlds for the IMWA Worlds in Las Vegas coming up here in 2 weeks. So that's like the first big competition that a lot of our team is doing. Then you have the Daytona UMWF Worlds, which is the first week in December. And then for some athletes, for one organization, they have like their triple or the Grand Slam thing where it's like you have to
Yep.
win nationals, Pan Am's, worlds, and then they have this additional local-ish type meet. And it's the week after Daytona. And so like it's one of those situations where like I personally as a coach want to scream when I look at the calendar and such because we get paid for progress. We get paid for PRs, we get paid for performances. And it's one of those deals where it's like shiny object syndrome. You want to do all the things and stuff like that. And
God,
so
yeah.
it was just I get asked like, how would you navigate this calendar? Like, what do you recommend? That's why we do the goal setting at the beginning of the year where we plan out the year and stuff like that. But then it got me thinking with the question, and again, just reeling in where your space, where you come from,
Yeah.
like CrossFit essentially, because that's the one thing I've personally never understood about CrossFit, especially with the old games format where it was like back to back to back to back. And in about a 6 month span, you have like, 3 to 4 major competitions. And, me coming from a traditional strength and conditioning background with like peaking and, the peaking and tapering and then doing it again and stuff like that, macro cycle planning, micro cycle planning
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like, how do you navigate a competition calendar? Would you do like, because the athletes that you have on our team, they still are a little bit newer in the sport, so
Right.
they're kind of doing the local level of stuff. But
Correct.
like with Allison, who you work with, who
Yeah.
she's kind of in that in betweener, she does the local events and she's doing some of the bigger national events now too, and trying to navigate where she's at and stuff like this. So how do you like fit it all in with a viable off season as well?
Yeah, so that's great, and it's funny because we were just talking about it last night with Allison, and I because I asked her, I was like, I couldn't remember if she was doing Worlds, and she's like,
Yeah,
no, I didn't, not this one. I'm doing the one in Daytona. I was like, perfect, like that's absolutely perfect, right? And so I, the way that I look at that calendar is I'm like, all right, hey, so we got to take a look at a couple things. One, and I'm going to try to do this quick because I have a thing coming up in a little bit.
you're good.
Um, so one is like to your point, we get paid for PRs in progress. So travel, heavy amounts of travel,
Yep,
right, tax the CNS system.
yep,
It taxes your immune system. It drains you emotionally. It drains you financially, which puts another drain on you, like mentally. So there's a lot of things that happen. So if you're traveling to a shit ton of competitions outside the area, right, that's gonna start to wear. So for someone like Allison, when there's local competitions, and Illinois seems to have a ton, right?
yeah,
It's finding the ones that matter most. If it's like, hey, you're new and you need exposure, then great, we can put you in every local competition known to man because it's just a matter of like, hey, we're going to get some exposure and we'll do this one as a train through with a focus on this one being the main, right? So like you were talking about with Allison earlier,
yeah,
mid-amps is a train through to get her to nationals in Daytona. That's perfect, right?
yeah,
Um, when she was just getting into it, it was like, hey, I just want you to enter the competition because I need you to get the platform experience.
Like
We're not
the
worried.
Howard Cohen she did last year.
Yeah, right. We're not worried about, meddling. We're not worried about any of this. Like, let's just get you on the platform to get you used to that because first, and you know this, right? For everybody, when they get on that platform the first time and look out at a group of people who are staring at them,
So different.
it's so different, right? You think you can handle it, and then you get there and you're like, why is everybody staring at me?
Yep.
Also, I'm in something very, very tight and it's making me uncomfortable. And and then you start going through the thoughts in your head. It's like, please don't shit yourself when you snatch today.
Right, right.
Right? The important things. So you want them to get used to it and get comfortable to it. But once they're used to it and they're comfortable to it, and we start looking at, hey, we want to qualify for things.
Right, right.
Now it's time to pick and choose and be very thoughtful because it's like, hey, if we're doing a competition every 6 weeks,
Yeah.
well, that's going to interrupt cycles, right? And to your point, micro macro, right? If
Yep.
right now the crew that I've got in the barbell gym, we just wrapped a cycle up, and the cycle that they're doing now is to get them to mid amps because none of them are going to nationals. So
Oh,
it's
100%.
right. Let's focus on building what we need to build in terms of our weakness and get us ready for mid-ams. And then after that, we'll reevaluate and we'll see what's on the calendar,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it's one of those things, and in CrossFit, it's so weird because to your point, I always think of Matt Frazier when you look at like the open to regional to games because
Yeah.
he won the open one year and tells Sammy, who's now his wife, and she brought this up. He was like, "Fuck, I won the Open. I wasn't supposed to win the Open."
I remember this. I do remember this.
Right? He's like, "That's not my peak. Like, I'm not supposed to peak for the Open." And so whenever somebody like, and he went on to win the games and become just insanely dominant, right? Because
Yeah.
he understood how to peak for, right? It
Yeah.
qualifying for the games was the goal. So you qualify, like you get your open, then you go to the regionals. At least this was the old system, and then regionals you qualify for a spot. He didn't
Yeah.
care about winning the open. He didn't care about
Right.
winning regionals. His goal, and he did both, but his goal was to peak for the games. And
Yeah.
you see people in the CrossFit world that they win the open and they do okay in their sanctional qualifier, and then they get to the games and they finish in like 15th place, which don't get me wrong, I'm not finishing that high. I'm
No.
not even going to make the games. But Colton Mertens, we talked about him
Yes.
before, is a great example of this. He won the open this year.
Yeah.
He went to sanctionals and qualified for sanctionals. And then when he got to the games, everybody was super hyped on him. But he wound up finishing, I think, in 12th place,
Yeah.
right? And he struggled through quite a few events. He
Which,
had,
by the way, he's one of my favorites.
yeah, and don't get me wrong, I like the guy, but and I'm not picking on him because again, I'm
Yeah.
not as fit as Colton Mertens, not even fucking close. But you watch him and you're like, okay, so maybe he peaked too early,
Right. Right.
right?
And so, with that in mind, peaking too early, and we're talking about like off-season stuff, I just want to give some basic math because this is what I will do to people when they talk about wanting to do competitions, right? We'll do this, and then we'll get everybody out of here because we've been chatting way too long here.
Yep.
So, roughly speaking, in a year, you got 52 weeks, right?
Yep.
Not roughly, but like you have 52 weeks in a
52
year.
weeks, yeah.
Okay. I personally would like two competitions that you're peaking for, but it just in this day and age, it's just not a thing. People want to push for three, and it can be done if you're smart about it. So, 52 weeks in a calendar year, three meet preps. My meet preps are 12 weeks long. So that's 36 weeks of meet prep across a calendar year, right?
Mhm.
Take that away. You're down to now 16 weeks left in of usable time in the calendar, all right? Then after a competition, with whether it's travel, just the intensity of the competition or whatever, I usually like athletes to take about a week after to just kind of let their, like, I call it like just, mess around weeks. Like you do
Yep.
whatever you want at the gym. I'll give you stuff to do. I'd like you to not follow the program. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but like go do some CrossFit, go hiking,
Yeah. Go have
just
fun.
lay around, watch TV. I do not care. but like I want you to give the body time to recover. Okay. So you take those 3 weeks, and I'm giving 3 weeks because 1 week for each of the three preps that we just did.
Mm.
That takes you now down to 13 weeks. All right. Then you factor in holidays. I don't care what anybody says. Across a calendar year, you're going to take some days off here and there for
Right.
holidays, whether it's travel, whatever.
100%.
And if you don't, like, you need to. I'm sorry, body needs a break. So I'm giving you roughly another 2 weeks there across all the holidays, start to finish, beginning of the year to end of the year. I think that's a very generous, amount there. Some usually a little less, maybe a little bit more, just depends on the individual. You are now down to 11 weeks total that you have in a calendar year for some sort of an off season, some sort of base strength.
Yeah. And
And
that's,
so it sounds like a lot of time, but like when you
but
look
it's
at
not.
it's not, no. And so that's what I think the thing I want people that kind of with that question I always want to leave people with, is when it comes time to like build and recover and things like that. And that's also like recovery work because like let's be honest, you're not going to be full on training for those 11 weeks.
No.
There's going to be deload weeks in there. There's going to be weeks where things are just not working, or you might have an injury that you're dealing with. And like I don't know about you, but like depending on the severity of the injury, 11 weeks isn't going to be enough to heal that injury. You
Nope.
know, so it's just one of those situations that where like as we are starting to get inundated with more and more events, social media doesn't make it like as fun, so to speak.
Right.
Like even like my Highland Games guys, like my Highland Games athletes, they'll do 10 to 12 competitions a year. A
Jesus.
little bit different of a scale
Sure.
because the weights are fixed. They're not doing, as much. But like I try to tell them, it's just like, listen, we're trying to essentially like during the season for a Highland Games or a sport like that, it's a dimmer switch, not a light switch in terms of like the intensity.
Right.
And like we'll kind of build up to an event. I just need to know what that is so we can work back from it. But like strongman, same thing. Powerlifting, same thing. Like those are hard events to kind of get build up for and then come down from.
Mhm.
So it's just like you need to plan out this. And if your coach is not planning out the year for you, and you're just kind of like, yeah, there's this meet on the calendar. Let's do this meet. Like, sorry, you need to get a new coach. But that's just kind of how I always map it out to people. Like I always try to give
Sure.
people information, like hard data to be like, this is why I want this stuff planned out because like you said, like or like we just talked about, 11 weeks is not a ton of time.
No.
It is
And,
not a ton of time at all.
real
So,
quick, then we can
all
wrap
right,
it.
with that being said, thank you everybody for sending in those questions, asking John and I. Continue to do so. Send them on social media, ask us in person, email us, pigeon carrier, whatever works best for you. John, the app is out. It is launched. We are doing our Founders Club. It is loading. Those of you who are subscribing, I get notifications every time a subscriber comes through and signs up for it. Thank you very much for those of you who are subscribing. Thank you for the feedback that we've been giving and stuff like that. Uh, um, the Miami Vice Strength Agenda shirts. I have made a post about that. Those are going to be going away by the end of the
Eight
month.
days.
8 days. So if you have not gotten one, get on the website. Go ahead and get one of those. John, what else am I missing? What other updates we got?
I think that's where we're at right now. We do have a new limited edition shirt, which is going to drop in September. So we are moving into this new cycle of like, hey, we've got shirts we're going to drop every so often. They'll be limited edition.
Cool.
If you are subscribing to our emails and not getting them, check your spam because they like to route to spam. But
Yeah.
one last thing too, one random question that I did get was a question of who is your favorite athlete and why is it me? So for Colleen, just giving Colleen a shout out for the silliest
Colleen
question.
didn't even know who I was the first
I
time
know,
I.
I know, dude, it's so good.
So
But
she's not so Colleen, you're not my favorite athlete because you didn't know who I was.
no, but Colleen, it's okay. You're my favorite today.
There you
Uh,
go. There
yeah.
you go.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you guys. Take care. See you at the next one.
Take care, guys.